Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How are you guys? I didn't get a chance to meet everybody. My name is Pete Spivak. I am friends with George, and he's asked me to sort of come here and help introduce him to you guys. As you all know, that George is a resident of Eastpointe, and Eastpointe, from what I'm gathering, is a city that, at least when I'm here, I have friends who live here. It's a city that I like to visit. It's a lot to offer. Strikes me as a city that probably has a lot more to offer than people know. It seems like a very clean city. Like I said, I do have friends here. I visit local residents all the time. I've gotten to know George over time as well. He's very concerned about what the city problems are, and I think that he's also got a plan in effect, or at least he'd like to have a plan in effect, and I think he's got a good plan in mind to sort of improve a lot of things around here, which probably need to be improved to help bring more light to the city of Eastpointe. And I don't know if exactly being, number one in the eyes of the state of Michigan is something Eastpointe wants to do. I don't know if it's just being a regular community that's just run properly with the services that you want. But I think that George is probably a guy that will be able to bring to light some of your ideas if you do have them. And I think that he has the power and the willpower, I should say, to get the job done, which probably a lot of other people in his position don't have the willpower to do. And I think that George is probably strong enough to get things done, decisions made, and processes moving, which I think a lot of stalled processes really at least annoy me as a voter and as a taxpayer. So I think he can really get the ball moving. And without further ado, the great George Massu.
Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to all for your attendance here today. It shows your dedication and loyalty to Eastpointe first. Gotcha. Over the years, I've grown increasingly frustrated with Eastpointe's lack of progress. And instead of meeting challenges facing our city with sensible, balanced solutions, our leadership has consistently adopted the failing status quo. It's gotten so bad that we needed taxpayers to approve a heavy 14 mil tax increase just to keep Eastpointe afloat, and still today we are continuing to fall further behind in our budget. In recent years, we've seen nothing but cutbacks, tax increases, and a very stale, flat economy. No more. We cannot continue to ignore the backwards course we've all been forced to take. And for several years now, I formed a team of residents, local business owners, and community leaders to change just this. We've worked together to present a vision of practical, common sense, and legal strategies to provide Eastpointe and its residents the best chance at a better tomorrow. Today, I present you a 3-point agenda that aims to solve our city's greatest challenges. And today, you'll leave this presentation knowing the difference between a politician and a leader. Okay, first priority, let's solve our revenue problem, housing stock and commercial corridors. The most important resource has, other than its residents, is its residential housing stock and small businesses that line the edges of our neighborhoods. Residential housing makes up 90% of our land area in our city. Our housing stock is the primary source of our city's ability to generate taxable income. Property taxes fund all our services like police, fire, administrative payroll, legacy costs, and pretty much every other city service and program. Let me assure you, though, I am not asking homeowners for more money. I do, however, have an interest in seeing our property values go up. First to what they were 8 years ago, and then beyond that. With an improvement to our housing stock, the city will see more dollars. And with those dollars, we can ensure that vital city services remain in place for the future and well beyond the 8 to 10 years that Samorsa had bought us. You can also expect, come on in. Hey.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. I'm glad you interrupted. Please, come on in. How are you?
Good.
Come here. You okay? Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
You can also expect to see an enhanced quality of life throughout Eastpointe, making our city attractive to the sort of home buyers you and I would like to have as neighbors and as friends. Here's the challenge. Why has Eastpointe been struggling so hard to make ends meet? In most cases, home values have dropped by more than 50%. Taxable value is hovering around $25,000 per your typical household, which means the city is collecting around 50% less revenue than it once was. Households with an income earning less than $30,000 a year make up the majority of home occupants in Eastpointe. Okay, right now, city data places 36% of all Eastpointe homes at earning $30,000 a year or less. That is an alarming high number. Numbers like these turn desirable businesses away from our city. Because of this downturn and council's cut and sell actions, Eastpointe has been sending the wrong message. We've been signaling to investors that we are a desperate for dollars community, selling properties in bulk at flea market prices to profiteering investors from outside of our borders. Over a third, but less than half, of all Eastpointe homes are now owned by these outside investors. They give little regard to Eastpointe, the residents, and the condition of the home. They're here for profit. We should be making efforts to attract young families and hard workers who are advancing in their lives and careers and who see Eastpointe as the perfect investment, the perfect place to buy a house and make it their home. Currently, we're not doing this. What our elected officials are doing is selling our city's greatest asset, cheap. Profiteer investors not only drain our charm, but drain us financially as well. Typically, $3 to $4 million per month leave our city's borders and go right into their pockets. A large number of Eastpointe's housing stock is also aging, dated, or blighted, and it no longer meets the needs and wants of today's market for new home buyers. There's very little market demand for a typical Eastpointe home. Our business corridors are similarly suffering. We have small, aging buildings, limited community-focused, value-added commercial growth, outdated zoning, and we have been led down a road. And this road has taken us to an economic halt. If this practice is allowed to continue, it will eventually lead us to ruin. I have a strategy, though. I will recapture a set portion of these dollars from these outside investors for the strict purpose of investing into Eastpointe's residential housing stock and its business corridors. We will meet homebuyer needs, wants, and demands. The strategy I will implement goes right after these profiteers and uses their money to fuel Eastpointe's resurgence in becoming an economic powerhouse. So when we talk about solving our revenue problem, it has several moving components and would surely take many presentations and many hours to fully cover as to how exactly Eastpointe's housing stock and business corridors will move our economy in a proper direction. Instead, I'm going to give you a few key points of my strategy to take home with you. One, increasing our home values and drawing in businesses of value will be my number one priority when it comes to solving our revenue problem. I will make Eastpointe highly competitive in the housing market and create demand for new, desirable businesses. Two, I have strategies in place to market our city that appeals to a wealthier demographic and increase not only our home values, but our home ownership as well. And lastly, and most importantly, I have methods of funding all of these proposed programs. Okay, my second main point, improve our city services, police and fire. Police and fire services are the pillar of the community and have suffered with cutbacks and concessions over the past 7 years. These services are an absolute necessity for the safety of all of us living in Eastpointe. To attract new families and desirable businesses, police and fire services are a must-have, not an option or an afterthought. This city must be able to stand on its own 2 feet and provide the means necessary in order to keep our city safe and secure. Here's the challenge. Because of the many cutbacks and budget issues, both our police and fire departments are overworked and understaffed. They've been doing more with less at each new cutback or contractual squeeze. Much more of this, and we are compromising the safety of our residents and the safety of our first responders. I will not let this happen, period. Our firefighters currently run on the model of 3 6-person shifts. This is an unsafe bare minimum practice. 2 firefighters and 1 fire engine are required for all emergency medical runs. Currently, they respond to 12 to 15 emergency runs per day. We also currently practice the 2 men in and 2 men out rule. So 4 firefighters are required for any structural fire. Do you see the problem yet? Our entire staff could be dispatched at the blink of an eye. What happens if someone falls ill and is unable to report for duty? Do we take a chance and run 4 to 5-man crews? This deficient model leaves our fire station completely vulnerable and is unacceptable practice. Our residents and firefighters deserve much more than this. Our police officers are not much better off, and without revealing too much about their strengths, their weaknesses regarding staffing, patrol routes, and shift routines, I will tell you that our police officers are understaffed and overutilized. These brave men and women patrol an area that is simply too large for current staffing. Samorsa was necessary. When taxpayers voted to approve Samorsa, we all thought Eastpointe would see some relief to these problems. But the ugly truth is, Samorsa will unfortunately only be able to fund our police and fire departments at their current operating levels for about 8 to 10 years. Okay, right now, Samorsa draws in approximately $6 million per year from the taxpayers. If you forecast our city's budget, we'll be spending over $1 million more this year than from last year. And then it sort of tapers down, and then now you're talking about $600,000 on top of that million each following year after. So currently, Samorsa should last Eastpointe roughly 8 to 10 years. Before another increase to taxpayers is put to the ballot, we really can't afford to waste the next 4 years on more of the status quo. Here's the solution. The challenge of improving police and fire is to improve the services without incurring new legacy costs to the taxpayer. We call this smart funding. Improving our services absolutely must not take from the general fund or shrink the 8 to 10 year financial window that Samorsa has provided. So here's how we'll overcome this challenge. 1, we're going to bring back ambulance service to Eastpointe. We're going to invest in 6 new paramedic firefighters and 1 new ambulance. And as we become the primary responder in emergency medical runs, this model provides an additional 2 firefighters per shift and a vehicle dedicated to emergency medical runs. This would allow for our fire department to cover more than 1/2, but up to 2/3 of all emergency medical runs in the city. Medical runs that are currently being covered 100% by an outside company. The best part of the strategy is smart funding programs pay for themselves. By bringing an ambulance service back to Eastpointe, we will capture hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a great start to improving our services at no new cost to the resident. 2, let's develop the first ever Eastpointe Community Care Program. This cutting-edge plan aims to partner with medical providers to provide in-home preventative care to Eastpointe residents. The idea is that our paramedics will start to make house calls, set up by the resident's primary care physician if the patient chooses this option. Homebound patients, those without transportation, and those with limited time or disabilities will all benefit from this program. Importantly, Eastpointe will also benefit, which means that each and every one of us will feel the positive effects of this program. As an example, Mr. Smith just came home from minor surgery. His physician needs an updated set of vitals with verification that Mr. Smith shows no signs of infection and has been taking his medicine regularly. Our community care program would upload all of Mr. Smith's information into his e-chart for his physician's review. And again, instead of Mr. Smith's insurance dollars being spent outside of Eastpointe, those same dollars could be spent literally right here in Eastpointe. Again, allowing us to create self-funding programs that will add greater value and depth to our community and enhance the value of our Eastpointe firefighters. Okay, so when we talk about ambulance service, currently MedStar captures 100% revenue of emergency medical runs in Eastpointe. The same medical runs that our firefighters are also dispatched to. So when the 911 call comes in, 1 fire engine, 2 firefighters go out and they respond to the resident's home. They diagnose the symptoms, they treat the resident, and they prep them for transport. MedStar then shows up, picks the resident up, transports him to the hospital, and captures 100% of revenue from that medical run. Moving on to community care, again, seniors, veterans, all benefit. These residents have a friendly face coming to administer preventative or follow-up care. This adds a new layer of unique importance and value to our fire department. Okay, moving on to our police department. As you may suspect, I have several strategies for improvement. 1, a DEA agent. I will hire an officer in our department that can be assigned to a special unit that can work all across Southeast Michigan. When these officers develop a case, and that case is part of a drug forfeiture or seizure, those seizure dollars are split into equal parts, and revenue is generated for Eastpointe's police department. 2, I will also create a team of 3 police officers entitled the Eastpointe Special Investigation Unit. It would be comprised of 2 patrolmen or detectives and 1 supervisor. This special unit would be dedicated to curbing activities in Eastpointe such as illegal narcotic trafficking, and it can also provide incriminating evidence through surveillance and other stakeout methods. Again, we're making Eastpointe safer, adding value to our police department and earning revenue by taking advantage of Michigan's drug forfeiture and seizure laws. 3, MATS, or Macomb Auto Theft Service, is another great strategy that takes minimal investment but yields high reward. One added police officer trained in auto recovery will have up to 60% of his salary paid for by Michigan grant money. That grant money is provided by auto insurance companies. This service will again add depth to our police department and help keep homeowner insurance rates at a lower cost in Eastpointe. 4, I'd modify our environment. Even with the proposed staff increases, I realize it's still not enough. I believe that we should reduce the number of ingresses and egresses on more vulnerable avenues like 8 Mile Road. This limits the amount of vehicular traffic in these areas and the amount of access points you would normally have into and out of our city. A positive byproduct of this change is that traffic will be pushed onto Kelly and Gratiot Avenue, where increased traffic should boost our economy along these corridors. Heavy wear of our impervious surfaces will also be rerouted from our residential roads and pushed onto roads maintained by the state, i.e. Gratiot Avenue. There, the state can absorb the cost of road repairs, saving Eastpointe taxpayers money while extending the longevity of our residential roads. Okay, I'm going to elaborate just a bit more on our avenues into and out of our city. For example, if we once had, say, 6 patrol cars managing 12 residential roads or avenues into and out of the city, that leaves our city with 1 car for every 2 roads, 1 patrol car for every 2 roads he's patrolling. If today we have, let's say, 2 squad cars patrolling those same 12 avenues, we are asking them to do more with less in a negative patrol model. If we modify our environment and have only 3 avenues into and out of our city, Kelly, Gratiot, and maybe 1 in between for safety reasons, then we now have built a successful model of doing more with less. This is not only safer for the resident, but safer and more efficient for the police officer patrolling that area. 5, I also plan on utilizing both an administrative fire chief and an administrative police chief. I will charge them with the duties and responsibilities that are required of the position and place them back in the council chambers meeting with council. I will move away from a public safety director. The administrative promotions would save valuable dollars otherwise spent from our safety budget. There are no new raises involved with administrative promotions, so the saved dollars could be used to add real street value to our city and to our police department. And lastly, the third point I want to make is a master plan, a guideline for our future. There's going to be a separate presentation dedicated to a thorough discussion on Eastpointe's visionary framework. However, I want to present you with some key points here today. 1, a master plan is a living document dedicated to providing the framework in which leadership and administration must follow to develop the future of its city. 2, a master plan provides a legal basis for determining future business in our city and helps ensure no one elected official can undo all the hard work that will go into improving Eastpointe. 3, it contains visionary concepts that aim to improve and reshape our city. 4, it also provides residents with a metric to gauge the progress of the projects proposed by its leaders and hold those leaders accountable to the plans in which they had set forth. 5, the value of a master plan is that once created, it will serve as a roadmap to create a better Eastpointe, and as a living document, it also has enough flexibility to withstand unforeseeable challenges in our future. So in conclusion, I've identified 3 categories that represent our city's biggest challenges. 1 is a revenue problem, and we have a functionally obsolescent housing stock in commercial corridors. We have diminished city services and no structure for our future. I also offer real solutions to these major issues affecting Eastpointe. I will improve our housing stock and business corridors. I will add needed staff, implement smart funding programs, and overall improve police and fire services. And I will provide a vision with realistic goals and a metric for accountability. Folks, long ago I realized that we can either spend our way out of problems, nor can we cut our way out of them. And as a result, I've worked long, smart, and hard to create practical, common sense strategies that offer growth, sustainability, greater safety, and across-the-board improvements to life in Eastpointe. Together, we will meet the challenges that face our city and turn a stagnant situation today into prosperity for all of us tomorrow. I am the only candidate whose vision, work ethic, and character have earned the time, attention, and input of so many leaders in our community. There's a reason for this. Eastpointe deserves leadership with a vision, which is why today I am proudly announcing my candidacy to become the next mayor of Eastpointe. Thank you.